Coming up on this episode of Focus, new and upcoming attractions in South Bethlehem. We climb atop the Hoover Mason trestle for a unique view of the Bethlehem steel blast furnaces and a walk through the history of this landmark. Plus, a look at how the arts, entertainment, and educational communities in the area respond to a growing number of Asian residents and visitors. These stories, plus an update on the National Museum of Industrial History from its new executive director. It's right now on Focus.
Focus showcases the people, places, and issues that matter to you.
Everybody has a story.
These are the stories that uplift and inspire right here in your neighborhood.
Focus on what matters. You never know what you're going to see when you tune into Focus.
Support for Focus is provided by
Univest, banking, insurance, investments, fellowship community, continuing care with spirit, and by viewers like you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I'm Laura McHugh. From our studios in South Bethlehem, we have some of the best views of Bethlehem Steel's blast furnaces, and we've closely watched the construction on the Hoover Mason trestle. The latest redevelopment project on the old Bethlehem Steel plant property unveils in mid-June. When it's done, a pedestrian walkway will parallel the historic trestle and connect the Steel Stacks campus on the west end with the Sands Bethlehem on the east end. Here with a bird's eye view is Focus reporter Grover Silcox. Grover?
Thank you, Laura. The Hoover Mason trestle, commissioned in 1905 by the steel president Charles Schwab, once hauled raw materials from the ore yard, where the casino now stands, to the blast furnaces. Visitors on the trestle will have an opportunity to see the blast furnaces up close and personal while enjoying the view overlooking the Steel Stacks Plaza and the historic buildings that are around it. The Hoover Mason trestle once served as the main artery for feeding raw materials to Bethlehem Steel's gigantic blast furnaces. The narrow gauge rail system shut down when the plant closed in 1995. But now the trestle is coming back, not as a small rail line, but as a walkway to history.
There are similar walkways in the country where there's elevated pedestrian walkways on top of railroad bridges, similar structures, things from industrial past, but nothing like this in particular.
The existing trestle is below you. You're really walking above it, and you're about 40 to 45 feet off the ground as you're walking on top of this original trestle.
The walkway, built 3 to 6 feet over the old trestle, will enable visitors a view of the track where iron ore, limestone, coke, and other materials were poured into bins below.
That was an important job to make sure there was no interruption in the flow of the basic materials that went into the furnace.
Those materials came by rail from the ore yard, now the location of the Sands Bethlehem Casino. Crane operators used the massive ore bridge, which still towers over the site, to load raw materials onto transfer cars for hauling to the blast furnaces.
From the Steelworkers Archives perspective, there's a lot of history in it.
For more than a century, workers at the Bethlehem plant made the steel that built, moved, and defended America.
The workers would sort of etch their name in plates that were on the trestles.
There's a few names up there that are welded right into the plate. The Czech boys have their names in there.
Richie Czech and his brothers, a whole family, lived their lives around the steel. Frank Bayham, president of the Steelworkers Archives, the Bethlehem-based organization dedicated to the history of the steel, remembers working on the trestle.
I can't even begin to tell you how many times I rode in on those ore cars.
Once at the furnace, the rail car would dump its load, and the load would make its way to skip cars.
Those skip cars that load at the furnace, that go up and down, they were going 24 hours a day for 7 to 8 years in a row.
Once inside the furnaces, the materials merged into purified molten iron. The searing liquid then went to the basic oxygen furnace, or BOF, and turned into steel.
When the plant shut down, they basically walked away. So they left the railroad cars, they left materials in the bins.
We kept the gondolas, we kept the old rail cars, so you'll have an opportunity to really see them.
Bethlehem steelworkers stood in disbelief when the plant shut down 20 years ago.
My poor buddy, Will Redline, the foreman, came up to him and said, "Will, come on out here and get in this last cast photo." Will said, "This was the worst day of my life." I told him right out. "Not me." He says, "I went behind the furnace and cried." Guess what, he says, there were other guys back there doing the same thing.
They had worked in an inferno of flames, heat, smoke, and noise. They lived in the same neighborhoods. They worked and played together. They forged a bond as strong as Bethlehem steel. The redevelopment of the Hoover Mason Trestle, like the adaptive reuse of other structures on the old plant grounds, now owned by the Las Vegas Sands Corporation, will help tell the history of the steel.
It's just a great thing because, you know, as being president of the Steelworkers Archives, we're dedicated to preserving the legacy of steelworkers.
The City of Bethlehem and the Bethlehem Redevelopment Authority, overseeing the $15 million project, brought in a top architectural and landscape designer to create the walkway. It'll run about 2,500 feet from the west end, next to the Visitors Center on the Steel Stacks campus, to the east end, near the Sands Bethlehem Hotel. Visitors will be able to access it via a staircase at either end or elevator near the Visitors Center.
It allows you to get real close to the blast furnaces, you get a different kind of view and perspective on the site, and we're using it as a way to educate people. People will be able to walk along the trestle and see signs that'll tell them a little bit about what happened, what each of the buildings or structures was used for, how steel was made.
The walkway features build-outs and green spaces like the High Line walkway in New York City.
Redevelopment Authority is also planning a walking tour, interactive for your phone.
Visitors can take in the view overlooking new and old structures below and above them.
We were able to also relight the blast furnaces and actually do a true architectural lighting show, as opposed to the floodlights that were there before.
The walkway will officially open in mid-June.
This is a great thing for the city, you know, as far as you want to get people down here, you want to give them the history. It's good for everybody.
The Hoover Mason Trestle, once in service to an industrial giant, now a link to its history. For Focus, I'm Grover Silcox reporting.
Thanks, Grover. Nearby on the property, construction continues on the National Museum of Industrial History. Here with an update is the museum's brand new executive director, Amy Hollander. Amy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here.
I know it's your very first week on the job. How's it going so far?
It's been very exciting, very hectic, learning everything I can as quickly as I can about what's happening on the ground at the museum.
So tell us exactly the location of the museum.
So the museum is right next to Northampton Community College. It is in the old Bethlehem Electrical Repair Shop. And it's just next to Arts Quest as well. So it's kind of sandwiched in between those two buildings.
So it's going to be an addition to the Steel Stacks campus right here.
It is.
And so what was that building used as, and how big is going to be the renovation going to be?
The building's about 18,000 square feet. We're focusing on the ground floor. It was the electrical repair shop, and so the first floor is, from floor to ceiling is about 29 feet tall. And we have been designing the space to really showcase what it would have felt like to be in that space. So a lot of museums will put in drop ceilings and make it look more like you're moving through a very modern experience, but we really wanted people to have the experience of being in a factory space. And so all the girders are showing, and then the brick is showing, so you really have the feeling of what it would be like to have been a worker in that building.
And it's been interesting because all along the process over the last year or two, you've been letting people come in and get sneak peeks.
We have. In fact, we just did a press conference there last week to introduce myself as the executive director, and we were in front of the one piece that's been installed already, which is the Corliss engine. 115-ton piece of machinery that's just so exciting.
So is it a large piece?
It's huge. It's huge. It's 115 tons. If you can imagine, they had to separate it into 9 pieces to get it moved into the building. And it's been installed with, when they were pouring the floor, they had to install it because it's so heavy at the same time.
So give us a tour of what it's going to look like when it's open.
So the museum is looking at the history of American industry, its achievements and the accomplishments of its workers, innovators, and entrepreneurs. And so there are several different sections. We are a Smithsonian affiliate, and so we have some of the Smithsonian collection that will be going in, and that space is looking at the transformation of the American cultural landscape from an agrarian society into an industrial giant. So it's a lot of the machines that were first used to enhance our farming society, but that led the way to industrialization. So that exhibit was originally part of a 1976 bicentennial exhibit at the Smithsonian in DC that honored the 1876 Pennsylvania Centennial Exhibition. So they reproduced a lot of the original pieces that were showcased in 1876 in Philadelphia. And the excitement about these new machines and what they would mean to the future of farming and then eventually to the future of the country as an industrial giant. And then we move into the Bethlehem Steel section, which is talking about the building, transporting, and defending of America. And it deals with, again, not only the incredible machines, but the people, the inventors, the entrepreneurs who really changed the way not just America, but globally, we see the world. I think it's, don't quote me, but somewhere around 80 to 85% of the New York City skyscrapers are made with Bethlehem steel. So it's really had not only a local, but a national and a global impact.
And when can visitors expect it to open?
We're hoping to open by mid-2016, and everything seems to be lining up perfectly to do that.
So that's just about a year from now. It's going to be a very busy year.
It is. It's going to be very exciting, and we have major benchmarks that are going to be happening every month. Some of them will be very visible as the pieces from the collection are being moved into the building. But a lot of it is about getting the exhibit designs planned, the interactive displays, bringing the right footage in to showcase the wonderful artifacts that we have that show them working, the vintage footage. It's going to be very exciting.
Thanks for joining us, Amy. We'll be sure to watch the construction closely.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, the presence of Bethlehem Steel has always made the South Side neighborhood an eclectic one. It's reported that 58 nationalities were once represented in the workforce at Bethlehem Steel. Today, if you walk through steel stacks, you may notice people of Asian descent on the campus, reportedly attracted by the Sands Bethlehem. To explain how the community has responded to a growing number of Asian visitors, here's Focus reporter Brittany Garzillo. Brittany?
Laura, the paths of South Bethlehem's Greenway form a physical link between the Sands and Lehigh University, both institutions drawing a growing number of Asian residents, visitors, and students to the area. At the Sands Bethlehem, approximately 20 to 25,000 people visit each day. On the casino floor, thousands of machines and a couple hundred table games attract customers throughout the Lehigh Valley and beyond. Here, Taiyan Hung, who goes by the American name Sue Hung, helps serve customers as a full-time marketing ambassador.
I help customers with replacement cards, reset PIN number, or they have any issue with the slot machine. I help them download their free play or check their account balance. And that will bring up your...
Hung, who is from Taiwan and moved to the United States in 1978, started working for the Sands in 2011.
By working at the Sands, I feel I become more well-rounded. I got to work with different people, with different background and culture.
Of the Sands' more than 2,300 member workforce, Hung is one of nearly 500 employees who are of Asian descent.
There is a community of people who live here now, who work here.
Mark Giuliano is the president of Sands Bethlehem.
Each month, the Sands leads the state in table game revenue, and as part of it is due to our dominance in the Asian markets.
Giuliano says they've developed a marketing program to attract Asian customers and have hired people who speak Cantonese as well as Mandarin. Hung is fluent in Mandarin.
We hired employees not only in the marketing areas, but of course in the casino who deal those games, and then in our restaurants, so that our customers, both domestic and Asian, feel comfortable that they have people who speak their language.
According to Giuliano, many of the Asian visitors arrive by bus from North Jersey and New York and are among thousands bused to the casino daily.
Most of them arrive in the traditional neighborhoods, both in the Bronx and Brooklyn and in Chinatown and Flushing.
Giuliano says their objective is to see the Asian market grow.
To see it grow in a meaningful way where they're contributing to us and they're contributing not only to the casino, but to our restaurants. And then eventually we like to see a lot of these people become overnight guests that stay for a few days. And we see that happening, and it'll continue to happen.
Some visitors can be found on the South Bethlehem Greenway. In April of 2015, South Bethlehem's Touchstone Theater completed their second and final play in a 2-year-long project called Journey from the East, inspired by the Chinese population in Bethlehem.
We wanted to explore the history of immigration in Bethlehem, and then specifically the Chinese immigration into Bethlehem, and then thirdly, how Bethlehem was serving as a microcosm that reflected a national anxiety over the growing global influence of China.
J.P. Jordan is the artistic director at Touchstone Theater and served as the director and co-production designer of the recent play entitled Journey from the East. According to Touchstone, the play examined themes of national identity and attitude through cultural mythologies. For America, the mythic Old West, and for China, the epic novel Journey to the West.
This project has just ripped open, at least say within this circle, that whole relationship between the concept of Chinese identity and American identity, so that now there's a sense of treasuring the differences, treasuring the culture that's being brought here.
The play was performed along the South Bethlehem Greenway and in the Harmony Pavilion, which was built in 2012 with the help of Lehigh students.
Probably involved more than 30 students working on the ground and the roof and everything from the wood. So spent like 2 semesters, but it's beautifully done.
Dongning Wang, an adjunct professor at Lehigh University from Beijing, says the Asian population in Bethlehem isn't new, but is increasing.
Especially after the casino opens, the very obvious, there's the flux that's along the Greenway. But actually the other is the Lehigh Chinese students. They increased dramatically in the past few years.
Touchstone Theater artists, with the help of Wang and her students, gathered more than 100 hours of interviews from the Bethlehem Chinese community, including longtime residents and visitors.
No matter what background you're coming from, we share the same common the feelings or the experience.
An experience that continues to make South Bethlehem a diverse community. For Focus, I'm Brittany Garzilla reporting.
Thank you, Brittany. After Bethlehem Steel closed, Northampton Community College became one of the first residents of the plant's former property. To tell us more, I'm now joined by Paul Pierpoint, the college's Vice President for Community Education and Dean of the Southside Center. Welcome to Focus.
Thanks for having me, Laura.
So, how long ago did the Southside Center open?
Almost exactly 10 years ago. Yeah, this is our 10th anniversary. We bought the building, signed the papers in March of 2005. First classes were in sort of repurposed classroom in July of 2005.
What was this campus like a decade ago?
It was pretty scary in some ways. It was like an abandoned part of town. You know, the Discovery Center had been here prior.
Which is now the Da Vinci Center.
The Da Vinci Center, right, exactly. And they obviously did well. They launched out of South Bethlehem over to Cedar Crest and did very well. But particularly when they were gone, there was nobody here. The parking lots were empty, weeds were growing up through the cracks, and it was very interesting. But it didn't take too long. First of all, I love that anyway, because it's sort of the sense of like pioneer spirit to be the first ones out there to help bring back this part of the community.
And you said at one point you were literally the only person in the building.
Yeah, for about 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks maybe, I was the only person in the building. And we would have meetings, you know, the engineers and the architects would come in and we'd meet, but in terms of actually being there, I was the only one in the building most of the time, and that was kind of cool.
And you said you compared it to being a pioneer.
Exactly, and I kind of felt that way, you know? I mean, we were out there on the frontier trying to, you know, bring back basically sort of civilization. And the community was unbelievable. The support we had, it wasn't just Northampton, so the whole community, they just wanted us to succeed and they wanted to be part of it. And it didn't take long at all before there were people in and out of the building all the time. It's been a real success that way.
And you were an adaptive reuse.
Right. We kept obviously we kept the building. You know, this was the former plant office, the management office for the plant in Bethlehem. And still today, people will go through there and say, "Oh, I used to work here," or "This is where I filled out my application papers," or whatever. Virtually every week, somebody comes in and they point to a classroom now and say, "My office used to be there." It's really neat.
And in over those 10 years, what kind of impact has the community college made specifically in this neighborhood?
I think we've had an incredible impact. I mean, you can talk to other people, John Callahan, you know, anybody who was part of us, the former mayor of Bethlehem, right? Bob Donchez, the current mayor, you know. But we've trained more than 1,000 table games dealers alone. That's 1,000 full-time jobs, by the way. We've trained, I don't know how many hundreds, it's definitely more than thousands, of nurse aides and technical partners that are working in the hospitals around here. Those are full-time jobs. At one point, for several years, we actually had a truck driving program here. And so, you know, when you put it all together, we estimated somewhere along the lines that we've generated about $100 million a year in payroll from graduates of our training programs. That doesn't include the degree programs. Just from our short-term training programs, and that's every year $100 million. The number gets bigger every year.
And which programs are based out of the Southside Center?
From a credit perspective, which most people kind of know us of, you know, the dental hygiene program, our clinic is on the South Side now, which makes it very accessible to people from the neighborhoods in South Side to come up and get dental hygiene services in partnership with Lehigh St. Luke's Hospital's dental clinic. Which is co-located with our clinic. Our hospitality and restaurant and hotel management program is located, 2-year degree program, is in the building. We have a massage therapy program. Fortunately, many of the regular classes are done on campus, but the important ones, the massage classes, are done in the building. So we have a nice massage studio. We have medical assisting. I think that's pretty much all the degree programs we have right now.
And then you have a lot of community education courses that are run through the building as well.
You know, we do obviously, community education we define it as all the non-credits. So we have all the fun stuff, the dancing and the cooking and the crafts and the art and stuff, but you know, probably the most well-known thing we have is the Fab Lab, where people can make anything. Our guitar making classes are sold out all the time. We have 3D printers and laser cutters, etchers, and CNC equipment, and anybody with an idea on what they want to make can come in and we'll help them take their dreams and make it a physical reality. We're actually, our Fab Lab is recognized nationally as one of the best in the country, and I'm really proud of that. People need to see it. It's a phenomenal asset for South Bethlehem.
So what is next for the Southside Center at Northampton Community College?
Yeah, you know, it's a 6-story building and 5 stories are completely done, but we've never done the first floor, which is kind of interesting. We saved that to the end. So we have proposals in now that if we're successful with our grant applications, we'll have funding to allow us to convert the entire first floor into what's going to be called the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. It's really exciting. We'll take our Fab Lab, which is just way over, I mean, it needs much more space than it has, so we'll put it on the first floor where it's more accessible, double the size. And we're going to add classrooms and support facilities to help people who want to start their own companies. So we'll have an entrepreneurship program. We're going to link all the resources. This community is full of resources to support entrepreneurs, and we just want to be part of that infrastructure and hook people up with all the different resources that exist. You know, one of the things we've said is Bethlehem used to make steel. Now we want Bethlehem to make companies, and we want to be a real part of that, producing the next generation of small businesses, and hopefully many of those will grow to become big businesses in the future. And this center is also going to include an art gallery, a restaurant, well, actually a sandwich soup shop kind of thing, which will also serve as a kind of an event center where we can do receptions and the community can come in and use it. We have a GED computer test center that's going to be expanded and enhanced as part of this process too. It's really exciting. I can't wait. And if we don't get the funding, we'll still do as much of it as we can, even on our own nickel, but the funding would just allow us to do it exactly the way it should be done.
Will you invite us over when it's done?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
All right,
yeah.
thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate the input.
Sure.
Well, you can see stories from this episode and others by connecting with us on social media. Find us at PBS 39 on Facebook and YouTube, and at PBS 39 channel on Twitter, and of course, always at WLVT.org/focus. And Grover, I think we're all awfully jealous that you got to climb atop the Hoover Mason trestle. We've been watching it so closely.
I did. I overcame my aversion to heights, but I got up there. Of course, when they have the stairway and the elevator, it won't be a problem. But no, it was great. It was like walking through history. And the scale, when you talk to steel workers, former steel workers at Bethlehem Steel, and they always talk about the scale of everything, how big things were. And that this plant now sort of brought back to life and readapted for other uses, but still retaining the history, gives you a scale, gives young people who wouldn't have known otherwise how big everything was. And he also talked about 2 years ago when they started that project, it was like they had just left it. It was like it closed in 1995 and it was just left. There was an old welfare room up there, it's still there. And when they walked in, there was still a refrigerator with sandwiches in it. They weren't in the best of shape, but it was amazing how it was like they just left.
They emptied out.
Yeah. So, but the history is still there.
And you really will be like walking through history as you're going through it.
Absolutely. And hopefully the Steelworkers Archives, the folks who work there, who worked on these, the Hoover Mason trestle and all throughout the plant, will be up there to tell you what it was like. And as you can see from Frank Bayham, the president of the Steelworkers Archives, there's still that passion. They tear up when they're talking about it because, it was like a war, and these are like veterans of that war. Working in this fiery, smoky, even very dangerous plant.
Wow, and I know that there's going to be a lot of interpretive media and video that we were able to help supply since we have the archives from Bethlehem Steel.
Exactly. There'll be an app for your phone and you can get a walking tour that way as well.
It's going to be fantastic.
It will be.
And here on the SteelStacks campus, coming up soon at the end of the month, is an event called Step Outdoors. And I know, Brittany, you stepped outdoors yourself.
That's right, I did. We went to the Monocacy Creek and I learned how to fly fish. Never been fly fishing before, so you may see that we did catch a little something. And by we, I mean, of course, the instructor caught something, and I was just there to see it, but you'll see that next week.
Thanks, Grover. Thanks, Brittany. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next week for that special episode called Step Outdoors. For now, we leave you with a look at our studio audience guests from Freedom High School and Brockle Middle School in Bethlehem.